Hi, my name is Michael Fernando Carozza. My play is The Weight of the Sun. It is about Sisyphus getting a visit from Persephone in the underworld, and they debate breaking free of the prisons that confine them and what that could mean for their lives. It's really about how choosing to do something that's hard, even if it's just living life sometimes, is its own form of defiance. I love taking inspiration from myth and classics in a lot of my writing. There's a reason these stories are told again and again, and it's because they ring true and resonate with so many of us. I love finding new ways to look at stories that we may have not realized were there before, or twist something old into something new. I think adaptation and reframing the stories that are so familiar to us is foundational to writing and storytelling, but especially writing and storytelling for the theater.
Hi, my name is Isis Elizabeth, and my play Crown of Smoke is about a young black woman named Yuri who decides she's done straightening her natural hair, literally and metaphorically. Right there in her grandmother's kitchen, she confronts her past, she confronts her ancestors and her family. It's ultimately a story about self empowerment. It's about choosing to walk in your truth despite it being hard. It's about honoring your ancestors' wishes and dreams, but also knowing that it's okay to hold their strength while also finding your voice. Using classical plays as inspiration, honestly, it feels like remixing an old song that you're used to hearing when you were a child. I feel like it's something so beautiful about borrowing elements and transforming them to tell a story that feels personal and that feels urgent. For example, in Crown of Smoke, the chorus is actually inspired by the chorus that are in Greek tragedy. But in Crown of Smoke, they're the ancestors. So they're not just narrating, they're guiding, they're challenging, they're whispering. It's not about copying the classics, it's about being in conversation with them. I'm very blessed and grateful to be sharing this story with the audience, and I hope you enjoy.
I'm Dana Leslie Goldstein. In my play DOJ, Not That J, the D stands for Desdemona, the O is for Ophelia, and the J is for Jessica, not Juliet. DOJ also stands for Department of Justice, Shakespearean justice in this case. Our three heroines are waiting for judgment. Are they worthy of a sixth act, where their stories continue, or are transformed, or are told from a different perspective? And if their stories do continue, what do they deserve? And do we actually know enough about them from their plays to judge? It's a really interesting challenge to use classical plays as inspiration. I have a background in poetry and lyric writing, but I've never been able to bring myself to even attempt to write like the classical works that inspire me. I try to go at it more slantwise, try to be surprising or comedic. I have another short Shakespeare-themed play called Bardtopia that follows a young woman applying for a job at a Shakespeare-themed amusement park. Think Disney for Shakespeare nerds. That's more like what I usually do. But in the case of DOJ, Not That J, it was different because I had already been thinking a lot for years about Jessica and trying to get inside her brain and the choices that she makes in Merchant of Venice. I'm a Jewish woman in an interfaith marriage, and I find it so difficult to empathize with Jessica, but I think about it a lot. So luckily, Desdemona and Ophelia do a better job at it than I do, or at least they do in my play.
Hi. My name is August Guszkowski. I use he, they pronouns. And my play, Kate Once, is about a college theater critic coming to terms with his sexuality after watching one of his classmates perform as Catherine in The Taming of the Shrew. While the play is set at a fictional college, it is based on real events that happened at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire in the 1920s, when the president of the college shut down female impersonation on campus because he was concerned that it was turning students gay. I think most of the stories I write are classically inspired in one way or another, in part because I started writing plays in college when I was studying ancient Greek tragedy and doing Shakespeare on the side, so it was very hard to escape those classical inspirations. But also, I think one of the genuinely wonderful things about being a human is being a social creature and wanting to hear other people's stories and wanting to share your own stories. And because of that, we've developed these blueprints for what happens in a story that we've been modeling things off of for ages and ages. And I really enjoy using those blueprints, particularly the Shakespearean ones, because again, huge nerd, to tell stories about things that might not have made it into those stories back when they were first told. So obviously queer people, yes, but also modern relationships and the modern world.
Hi, I'm Amy Jo Jackson, and my play, The Aurora Method, is about two old friends, Julie and Eric, one of whom, Julie, has recently fallen under the spell of this woman, Aurora, who's a sort of wellness guru, but is really a grifter trying to take her for all she's worth. And Julie's best friend, Eric, is trying to wake her up before all her money is gone. It is a direct send-up of the famous table scene from Molière's Tartuffe. You could call it a tarspoof, if you wanted. So I'm a super language forward writer and actor, and that comes from years of being a classical actor and having grown up loving heightened language, loving like lyrics and wordplay and Shakespeare. And then when you look at all these plays that have stood the test of time, it's like a really kind of startling look at how little humanity has changed. And then with a character like Tartuffe, yeah, I was struck upon rereading it like, oh, this guy is everywhere today. Like, we're in a golden age of grifters. And, I think that's the genius of a lot of these writers is they were just writing about the essential human condition. And that works in any time. I also really love Molière because you can just tell that the guy was also an actor. I mean, so is Shakespeare, but like, there's such a revelry and a rambunctiousness in Molière's writing that I find very satisfying as an actor and that I was excited to dig into myself. I'm AJ Layague, and I wrote Anteros Was Here, which is a retelling of the Greek myth of Melis and Timagoras and Anteros, who is the Greek god of requited love. In this version, set in the Old West and narrated in rhyming verse by the cowgirl, she tells the story of two young cowboys who grapple with defying their roles in love, friendship, and repudiation. I love writing in rhyming verse. I was a composer for many years before I became a playwright. And my first real experiences with Shakespeare and other plays in heightened language was composing music for them. So the language for me was very embedded with rhythm and leitmotifs. So I tend to hear these characters very specifically in rhyme schemes and prosody. For this play, the cowgirl speaks in rhyming couplets and anapest tetrameter, the cowboys in enclosed rhyme and iambic pentameter, and Anteros, who is the avenger of all those who were spurned romantically, declaims in tercets.